A new study shows more teens are choosing marijuana over alcohol. The peer-reviewed journal Clinical Toxicology releasing numbers showing marijuana use among kids jumped 245% between the year 2000 and 2020. It's a 20-year high. Dr. Eliza Holland is a pediatrician at the University of Virginia Health System, joining me right now. Dr. Holland, this is obviously a generational concern. These kids today are facing a different kind of temptation than they were 20 years ago. And we've, of course, seen teens experiment with cigarettes for eons and alcohol. But are kids choosing pot more likely because of the access to marijuana?
I think that is a big part of it. The unintended consequences of decriminalization and legalization in many states means that marijuana is much easier to get for young people. And it's certainly branded for younger people. If you look, a lot of the gummies are put into forms that look like candy.
Yeah, and that was another question for you, the edibles, because they're putting marijuana into products that look like, dessert or a snack. It can be very discreet. It's easier to carry with you. It doesn't smell as pungent as smoking it.
I think absolutely there's a part of it. That's a big part of it. Also, even if you're in a state where marijuana is not legal or not decriminalized, it's pretty easy to get it from adjoining states. I know here in Virginia that a lot of people were getting it from Washington, D.C. for quite some time.
And what developmental effects? Let's talk about the science, because this particular journal was discussing how children were misusing it. They were using it at very young ages. How would it harm a child versus an adult?
Well, I think younger children are more likely to have symptoms like seizures and altered mental status when they take it. I think we need to remember that the strains that are coming out now are much more potent than they were 10 or 20 years ago. And these strains tend to have more effects in the brain than in other systems. Also, children are smaller. If we're thinking about the younger kids, and so a dose is going to affect them worse. I think with the edibles, you never know exactly how much you're getting. So the concern is that you take an edible, it takes a long time to feel any effects, and then you take more, and a couple of hours later, you're feeling a lot of effects.
Yeah, it takes longer to actually feel the high versus just smoking it. But obviously there are dangers with alcohol and with marijuana. Would you say that alcohol or marijuana is more dangerous?
Oh, gosh. I think they each have their dangers. I feel like with alcohol, it's a little bit easier to get a sense of how it's going to affect you as you go throughout the night. With marijuana, like I said, it can hit you all of a sudden. And certainly with marijuana, you can have the side effects. I've seen kids who have come in who are psychotic after smoking marijuana, who are having seizures after getting into edibles, and that's teens as well as young children. You can get laced marijuana, which might have fentanyl or PCP in it, and you wouldn't know it until all of a sudden you've passed out or you've stopped breathing. In children and young adults who abuse marijuana, we often see them come in with bad stomach aches and persistent vomiting, and that's a side effect of chronic marijuana use.
Again, because it has been so widely used now, it's been decriminalized, as you mentioned, and even marketed as healthy in a lot of places. Kids are seeing this as something that might be safer, but we really need to pay attention to what our children are ingesting, especially those edibles and vapes. Thank you so much, Dr. Holland, for stopping by for us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.